Hello, and welcome to this freestyle soccer tutorial. Actions, they say, speak louder than words, so let's get right to it. I have this model here, which is already rigged and equipped with IK functionality. I created the model using reference images. I will not discuss rigging or inverse kinematics in this tutorial because those are entire disciplines in themselves, and there are already many fine tutorials here on YouTube discussing those subjects. There will be no need for me to inflict another tutorial on you. To understand how the human body moves when juggling, I went through the motions of actually juggling a ball, and the poses in this animation are based on what I observed during that exercise. The poses in this animation were not created by rotoscoping or by any other means by which movements are traced from recorded footage. The poses were manually made using the observations I made while conducting my research on ball juggling. Of course, it goes without saying that the movements in an animation, such as a freestyle soccer animation, should look natural. So one of the issues I had to address was ensuring that the eyes always followed the ball. Blender makes this easy by providing a function that enables an object to track other objects. This function is known as the tracking constraint. To add the tracking constraint, make sure you are in object mode, then select the rig. Switch to pose mode. Select the head bone. Click on the bone constraints properties in the lower right-hand corner. Click on Add Bone Constraint. Click on Track To. For the target, select the sphere, which is the ball. And for the track axis, select Z. And you can see that the head turns downwards to face the ball. So if we switch to object mode now and move the ball, I click on the ball, grab G to move it around, you'll see that the head is following the ball. Wherever the ball goes, the head follows it. Let me move it up and down a little bit so you can see the head, see how the head bobs up and down. You can see the head following the ball up and down as it moves up and down. If you decide to replicate this animation by creating one of your own, you will really appreciate the tracking constraint feature, because with all the poses you have to make, it will be so easy to overlook a pose here and a pose there. So knowing that you don't have to worry about making the head follow the ball is a very welcome relief. The animation starts from chest level, from where the ball drops and is kicked by the right foot. And of course, it's very important, I would even say critical, to keep looking at your work from different angles to ensure that the ball is always positioned where it's supposed to be and that it's always traveling in a trajectory it's supposed to be traveling in. And of course, the poses too. You want to make sure that the arms and the legs are properly positioned relative to the ball. I mean, it might look like it's directly under the ball from the side view, but when you switch to the front view, you might find that the leg is actually positioned to one side of the ball. So it's always a good idea to keep looking at the project from all angles. So the ball starts at the middle of his chest. So I'll position the ball right here in the middle of the chest. I'll just move it on the x-axis. And of course, you can see that the head faithfully follows the ball. Let me now switch to side view because I think you can see it better that way. So the ball moves downwards, and of course, the right foot moves forward to receive it. And other body parts move simultaneously as well. The right arm moves backwards, the left arm moves forward, and the torso leans forward as well. These were all observations I made when I practiced the motions of juggling a ball. I didn't actually have a physical ball with me. I am an okay juggler of the ball. I am not by any means, a freestyling marvel, but I do okay. But I'm quite familiar with the motions of ball juggling. So when I went through the motions, these are the movements I observed. And I imagine when I actually do juggle the ball, when I have a ball, when I actually have a ball to practice with, these are the actions that my body executes. So now let's make these poses. Make sure the rig is selected because we will not be able to switch to pose mode if it isn't. Then select the pose mode. Select the control bone for the leg. Make sure the playhead is at frame 1. Move it to frame 1. Add a keyframe, press I, then click on location, rotation, and scale. The leg will move forward in two stages. In the first stage, it will travel rather slowly. In the second stage, as it moves to engage the ball, it will move quicker. So let's move the playhead to frame 8. Then make the pose for the first leg movement. The control bone for the leg is already selected, so we don't have to select it again. Press G for grab and move the leg like so. Something like so. Then move the model around to make sure that the leg has not moved towards the middle of the body, because you can't always tell if a pose has been performed just as you would like if you only look at the model from one perspective. So you can see that the leg is properly positioned, so we can just go back to side view, press I, and keyframe the pose. So now we have to make the second pose where the leg actually moves forward to engage the ball. This pose is a little faster than the first one. So this time we'll move the playhead only 4 frames forward to frame 12. Then we'll press G for grab again, and then move the leg forward like so. And then keyframe it. So now when we scrub the playhead back and forth, we'll see our leg movement. It isn't enough to just move the leg. We have to flex the foot as well at the moment the ball is struck. Otherwise, it will look as if the ball just bounced off the foot rather than being kicked by it. So we will also pose the foot to strike the ball. And I was able to determine through trial and error that the best result was obtained if the foot started flexing 2 frames before the end of the leg movement, and if both the foot and the leg concluded their movements at the same frame. So I'll select the right foot bone, move the playhead to frame 10 by clicking on the arrow in the current frame box, then flex the foot upwards. Press arrow, then X to constrain the rotation to the X axis, and flex the foot upward. Make sure you flex it significantly, because if you only flex it slightly, it wouldn't appear as if the foot is moving at all. Then add a keyframe. So that does it for the foot. Let us now make the pose for the right arm. Let's move it around so we can see things a little more clearly. The right arm and the right leg start moving at the same time. So the keyframes where their poses begin are identical. So let's go to frame 1. Select the control bone for the arm. Add a keyframe. Then move the arm backwards. One thing I forgot to mention when I posed the leg, in Blender, if you want to perform any of the 3 core actions, that is movement, rotation, or scaling, on 2 axes at the same time, press the key for the desired action. So if it's movement, for instance, press the G key, then press Shift plus the axis you wish to exclude from the action. So if you wish to move an object or a model or anything in Blender on, say, the X and the Y, but not the Z axis, you would press G, Shift, Z. And that will move the object along the X and the Y axis, but not along the Z axis. So to pose this arm, all I have to do is press G, Shift, X to exclude the X axis from the movement. So the arm will move along its side, but it won't move towards the middle of its body. This is what I should have done when I posed the leg. It just slipped my mind while I was going over it again for this tutorial. Unlike the leg, the arm moves in one stage. So we can just go to the frame where the movement will end, which is frame 12. So go to frame 12, press G, Shift X to exclude the X axis from the movement, and then just pose the arm. That looks about right. Or maybe just bring the forearm forward a little bit. G, Shift X, and add a keyframe. So we've got our arm moving a little bit there. And of course, the leg and the foot as well. The movement of the torso is a simple movement, and it transpires along the same span of frames as the leg and the arm. So just click on the torso. We move it around a little bit. That's the bone that moves the torso. Go to frame 1. Add a keyframe. Spin it around to the side so we can perform the lean effectively. Hit arrow X to spin it along the X axis. Move it forward, make it lean towards the ball. That should be about right. Not too much. Just lean towards it. And add a keyframe. Unlike the right arm, the left arm moves forward, but it moves in the same span of frames as the right arm. It's a pretty simple pose, just like the right arm, so there's no point in me belaboring it. I'll just complete it. Select it, of course. Make sure we're in frame 1, add a keyframe. To complete this round of poses, it now remains to bring down the ball. Again, I found from trial and error that the best result was obtained when the ball reached its lowest point at the frame where the foot starts flexing, which is frame 10. So switch to object mode, select the ball, go to frame 1, add a keyframe, go to frame 10, and then bring the ball down to the foot. Make sure you bring it down. Make sure it travels beyond the top of the foot and even into the foot itself. Whatever distortion you might observe here will not be noticed during the animation itself, so it's okay. Spin the view around. Make sure the ball is properly positioned. We need to adjust it a little bit on the x-axis, so press G and then just use your arrow key to move it slightly on the x-axis to position the ball above the foot directly. Move it lower again. Use your arrow key. There we go. And now add a keyframe. One of the wonderful things about Blender is its use of interpolation when creating keyframes. I've not really explored interpolation in Blender in great depth, but I believe the default option it uses is the path of least resistance. So as I was moving this ball down to the foot, I didn't have to worry about the ball weaving, left and right. Blender would just make it move smoothly down to the foot. The ball starts moving upwards as the foot flexes at the same time to kick it, and the ball reaches its highest point about 8 frames later. I will also impart a spin to the ball as it moves upward, because when you juggle a ball in real life, it tends to spin. Since the player alternates between his right and left foot, I will also move the ball to the left side of the body, so that on its next descent, it will come straight down to the left foot. So I'll go to frame 18, and then I'll move the ball. I'll press G, Shift X, then I'll move the ball to about chest level. And then I'll spin it around so I can see it from the front. And then I'll move the ball to the left side of the body. Press G and then X. And I just move it to about there. And then add a keyframe. So if we scroll back and forth now, we can see that he has kicked the ball. And you can see the head faithfully and very reassuringly following the ball. I will stop here now and continue this tutorial as part 2. I don't want to make things tedious for the viewer by presenting too much at once. Quality animation involves patience and perseverance. Thank you for watching. I hope this tutorial has truly been inspiring for you. And until I see you in part 2, take care.